Welcome to First Down Sports. As always, I'm your host, Ray Dunn. Sitting with me again, as always, is my co-host, Andy Jardine.
Yo, how's it going, Ray?
Very good, very good. We're recording on a Monday night this week. I have a little bit of travel plans I got to make, but we wanted to make sure you get your Canadian edition of the podcast, so we're recording on Monday night. And because we're recording on Monday night, we've got a little change in the studio.
Yeah.
Little change in the studio. Nikki Dunn couldn't be here this week. So sitting at the back table tonight is a special guest, special sound audio person is the one and only Jeannie B.
Hello.
Jeannie B.
How's it going, Jeannie B?
I'm doing well.
Very good.
Thank you.
How's things running back there so far? Going good?
So far, so good. Your voice is booming.
Booming. Wow. I like it.
Sounded like a compliment, I think.
I think that's great. I'll take that.
Yeah.
I'll take that. All right. So before we get started, let's talk about our sponsors real quick. If you're a sports team, an organization, a school team, which is going to be important for tonight, and you need hats, shirts, jackets, you name it, you go see our buddies, the Doyle's Corporate Image.
Because the Doyles rule.
And if your kitchen sucks, and most likely it does, make sure you go out and get yourself some done right sauce. It's no longer buffalo sauce. You remember that whole thing?
Yeah.
They've dropped the buffalo.
It's just sauce.
So are they going to have like a done right Chicago sauce or done right Montana sauce? Like what's going on?
I don't think they're dedicated to the sauces named after cities. I just think they'll have various sauces.
Just more kinds of sauce?
That's what I think. Yeah, that's what I hear.
He's pretty secretive about his sauce. Right?
He's got an interesting marketing.
That's it. So there you go. Done right sauce if you're looking to spice your kitchen up. Our other sponsor, we'll talk about that later on tonight. Tonight it's not really appropriate, and we'll tell you why a little bit later on. Now, before we get into the show, Andy, it's Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
How was your Thanksgiving?
Really good. Yeah, I ate too much and was still eating some of it today.
Nice.
But it was a pretty good weekend. I was up to Miramichi for a little while and then back down here. And on the holiday Monday, here we are recording a show.
Now, I heard last week we talked about you going for your motorcycle license.
Yes.
So tell us about your new purchase this week and what you did today.
Yeah, so that's why I went up to Miramichi. I bought a brand new motorcycle. It's not a moped, but we'll let Chris pretend that it is, right? Yeah. And so I went to pick it up on Friday, and then I drove it back down here. And then today I went on a little run with a bunch of guys down around Fundy and Havelock and just all kinds of back roads I wouldn't be able to find my way out of on my own, and it was a blast. 300 kilometers or so.
With a bunch of guys?
Yeah, there was 3 guys and one of the wives.
Wow.
Yeah.
So are you is this technically considered a bike gang then, or like what is it? Just like bike friends, or do you consider yourselves bike gangs?
I don't know. I think this was like my tryout. So I haven't, there's been no initiation or anything. They may just never call again.
Awesome.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, I had a interesting, I had the week off AUS football as far as officiating goes. And Jeannie her family was having dinner on Saturday. And then I found out late in the week I was going to Fredericton to work an AFL game, which the AFL is like junior university. It was Dalhousie University versus UNB St. John.
Oh, okay.
The quality of football is not even close to AUS.
Right.
But it's decent football. I think it's between the ages of 18 and 24. So there's some good football players that play.
So would a school like St. Thomas play in that or something?
No, right now there's only 4 teams. It's UNB St. John, UNB Fredericton, Holland College, and Dal.
Okay.
Yeah.
UNB Fredericton's a huge school. You would think that they could...
They have a great team.
Okay.
They really have a good team. I'm hoping at some point that UNB Fredericton jumps into the AUS.
Yeah.
Because they've got the student body to do it.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Jeannie, seeing I missed Thanksgiving dinner, why don't you tell us real quick how your Thanksgiving went out at your parents' house this year?
It was great.
It was great?
Yeah, lots of good food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ray wasn't there.
Ray wasn't there.
helps.
Yeah. Everybody else was there, but Ray.
which probably made the dinner better.
Oh, everyone was terribly sad that he was not there.
There you go. All right, let's get on with the show. So, listen, before we get into our AUS and CFL content this week, folks, I've been telling you really since I started this podcast how great our high school football program is here in New Brunswick, and especially here in Moncton. And what's funny is I talk to officials right across Canada when it comes to high school football, and they're lucky if they have 100 people in the stands to watch a game, parents, grandparents, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
Lucky to have 100 people. We had our homecoming football games this past weekend. I was in the Moncton High versus Harrison Tremble game, and my wife was in the crowd, and there had to be easily 1,500 to 2,000 people at that football game.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, this football is very entertaining stuff. We have a great guest this week. He is the quarterback for Riverview Royals. They had a big game against Tantramar High, which we talk about them a lot, about how strong that football program is.
Yeah.
So let us get you into our interview. His name is Logan Grossman. It's a great interview, very well-spoken kid. We're going to get you over to that interview now, and we will be back after the interview. Okay, guys. Well, we have a big guest here tonight. As you know, we're always talking about high school football. And again, I just want to say, when it comes to high school football here in the greater Moncton area, when it comes to the entertainment value of the high school football, you're not going to find too many areas that pack the house in for high school football here. And we're going to talk about that in a few seconds. Our guest this week, and this is our first high school player. We've had university players on, but this is our first high school player. And what a great time for this interview. As you all know, we've talked about Tantramar Titans and how strong this program is out of this little town of Sackville, New Brunswick. And that really started back in 2015 when they went to 2 back-to-back championships with undefeated seasons. And finally, in 2017, somebody had to finally knock them off the top of the hill. And this player was a big part of that. On October the 6th, on Friday night down in Sackville, the Riverview Royals knocked off the Titans 27-26. My guest has started playing the quarterback position at the age of 9 for the Greater Moncton Football Association. Now at 16, he is the starting quarterback for the Riverview Royals. And in this season, Andy, just so you know, this kid has thrown 10 touchdowns, including 3 against the Titans defense this past weekend. It's my pleasure to welcome Logan Grossman to First Down Sports.
How's it going, Logan?
Not too bad.
Yeah, a big part of it, a huge part of it, 3 touchdowns. This is a big win, Tantramar, huge. Yeah. Just talk about practice this week. Like, was there something different? What was the coach's message? Did it just feel like the same? You guys went out there and did your jobs, or was there a little extra buzz for this big one?
Well, we know Tantramar, they always practice hard. So when you're going into the week that we're going to have to give it like double the amount of effort that we usually do. So basically we couldn't just run through the motions. We had to execute in practice. We wanted to execute in game. So our coaches, they brought us aside at the start of the week and just basically told us, they said, like the only people that believe we can beat Tantramar are the guys like that you see right here talking about us and the coaches. And because we knew we were the underdogs going into the game, so that just made us hungry, added fuel to the fire.
Yeah,
basically.
That's awesome.
Just a quick question on that is, the game took place at Mount A on the turf field. Now, what's interesting, you and Tantramar, I think, are the only 2 high schools in the greater Moncton area that are still playing on grass fields.
Yeah.
So was there an advantage to either team playing on the turf field?
Okay, yeah. So I don't really notice any difference. We played at Fredericton. We played at Leo Hayes. Honestly, the turf, the grass field doesn't really make a difference to me. I think on offense, we just do what we have to do and execute, and it doesn't really make a difference.
That's awesome. It must be nice to be young, because at my age, when I work a grass field, I can't walk for 2 days afterwards. So, in this particular game, okay, so you're at Mount A, playing this game under lights on a beautiful stadium, right? It is a beautiful stadium there. Tantramar gets out to a quick early lead in this game. So they jump out to a quick lead and they start rolling like Tantramar always does. What's going through your head as the leader of this team about, as you're watching the points going up, what's going through your head on the sidelines?
Well, I know, like, as a quarterback, as a leader of the offense, I know I have to stay calm, and I don't want to, if they see me rattled, then it's going to mess up everything for the rest of the offense. So I have to go around reminding people, stay confident, do your job, you know what to do, just do what we do in practice, and we're going to execute our plays like we have to do. So just seeing they got off to a 20-0 lead, I told the boys we had a minute and a half left, and the punt team was on, offense was getting ready to go on, and I told the boys, I said, boys, 1 minute and a half left. We got to go score. And so we went out, and I got them all pumped out in the huddle. And then we went out and we threw a 55-yard pass to Cody Barton, and then he ran in for the touchdown to give us a little bit of momentum going into half.
Beauty. So it was 20-7 going into the half.
Yeah, at halftime. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and now I got this information from Ray, so you can tell me whether this is true or not. But you guys came out. It was 20-7, and I hear that there was somebody there wearing a shirt that said "River Who" on it that pumped you guys up a little more. Can you comment on this? Was there really a River Who shirt?
Yeah. Well, honestly, it didn't really bother me. I didn't even hear about it till after the game.
Okay.
So the thing that did kind of bother me a little bit though was, at the start of the game, the captains got called out. We went to shake hands with them, and a couple of their guys didn't shake our hands. And I went up to them, and like they wouldn't shake my hand, so I just grabbed their hand and shook it. And I said, like, boys, like it's just a game, guys. And I was kind of shocked, honestly. Like, just growing up in Riverview, I've just grown up being like, I've been raised to be classy, and to win or lose, it's just for fun. It's more than just about winning and stuff, and like it's more about the team and about like the brotherhood and stuff. And I know at Riverview, our coaches are trying to make us more into men than football players.
Right.
So like, you're trying to learn how to be responsible, learn good sportsmanship, all these good skills for your life. And I just feel like that stuff's not tolerable at Riverview. But
nice. So, like you said, you pumped up the guys. You're the leader of the leader of the offense. You're the leader of the team. Come on, you're the quarterback. You pumped the guys up. You managed to score before half. Coming out in the third quarter, what was the major focus the coaches had you look at?
Yeah, well, I gathered the guys in the end zone at halftime. We kind of just talked about what we needed to do to improve the second half. And like we were just talking about different things we saw. I asked the O-line what they saw out there, the receivers. And then our offensive coordinator, Peter Como, came over, gave us a motivational speech, kind of pumped us up a little bit going into the second half. And I just talked with Pete, and we just talked about things that we saw and like plays that might work. And then we came out in a couple drives, and we drove down the field and ended up scoring. And the more points we put up, the more pumped all the boys got. So just after the first touchdown, everyone just got super excited, like said, like, boys, we're in this. And then we went out, got another one, and then we just kept on going from there.
Yeah, confidence can really just turn into talent that you haven't used yet. Like, it's amazing how that works.
It's kind of like the Buffalo Bills at the Atlanta Falcons. Sorry.
We're going to cut this out.
We're going to cut that out. All right. Yeah. All right, so I want to talk about the last minute of this game, okay? So you guys have climbed ahead now. You're up 27-20 with under a minute to go. You guys have the ball, which, again, was a huge comeback. To come back 27-20, hold them pointless in the second half. Yeah. So now you guys got the ball, and on the first play, with less than a minute left to go, you guys come out and take a knee. So as a referee, one of the biggest things I'm always talking about coaches and players is time management in the last 3 minutes of a football game. Whose decision was it to take a knee?
I think just the whole excitement kind of got to like everyone, and I just do what the coaches tell me to do, and I was thinking, okay, they want me to take a knee, I'll take a knee. I was excited, we're winning, and so I went out there, took a knee. I'm not sure, it might have been to get rid of one of their timeouts, or maybe the coaches didn't know they had a timeout. I'm not really sure, but it all worked. It all worked itself out.
So you took a knee. Now you go 2 and out on that play, so you end up punting the ball down the field, and the Titans get it. So the Titans get the ball. They start moving downfield. And as they're moving downfield, what kind of emotions are going on on the sideline as they're getting closer to the goal line?
Yeah, like I was there with two of my good friends, Jackson Green, Cody Bard, two of my receivers, and we were just holding on to each other. We're just like, we're praying. We're like we can't believe like we worked so hard the second half, and our defense worked so hard. And they were driving down the field, and it was scary. They're getting pretty close, and just like they made some really good plays, but our defense ended up holding them, and like I could just see everyone. You could tell everyone on our sideline. Everyone was so nervous, but also kind of happy. It was just a bunch of mixed emotions because we weren't sure what was going to happen. But
well, they put the ball in the end zone, bringing the score to 27-26. Okay, now we line up, and they're going for 2. There's no, just so you know, Andy, there's no overtime in high school regular season like AUS. So it's either play for the tie or play for the win. Mm-hmm. And Tantramar, who hasn't been beat in 2.5 years, they decide they're going to go for the win. All right. Yeah. So they line up for 2, right?
Yeah.
Now this was a crazy, this is where things really get crazy. So the quarterback dropped back, throws a pass to the receiver close to the sideline. He breaks a couple tackles along the sideline and gets into the end zone, and the signal for 2 points from the middle of the field goes up. And people are coming onto the field at this point, right, Logan? Talk about that for a second. What's going on the field?
Well, I can remember because I couldn't believe it. Like I was in shock. I didn't see that there was a flag that went up, but I saw the whole Sackville, the whole team started running out to the field, and we're like, oh my god, like how did this happen? Like we were winning, we worked so hard, and then we saw that flag, and then we're like, okay, please let it be on them, not be on us. And then so it ended up being on them, and they went at it again.
Well, that's what. So what happened was the player stepped out of bounds at the 2-yard line
and came back
as he was trying to get into the end zone. As soon as he steps out on a convert, it's over. Yeah. Riverview wins 27-26, but here Sackville didn't realize they thought they had won the ball game.
Oh, wow.
Right? So the flag was because of the fans were coming on, but the flag meant nothing because he'd already stepped out of bounds.
He already stepped out.
So there you go. Yeah. Tell me how, when you guys, after that whole crazy play there, how did it feel on the sideline thinking you had lost, and then all of a sudden finding out that you've won the ball game?
It was crazy. As soon as we found out we won, and there's still a second left on the clock, and all the boys, we all ran out onto the field. I think there's some fans that ran onto the field too. And our coaches were jumping up and down. There's still I remember 1.8 seconds left on the clock. Yeah. And it was incredible. And then they ended up having to kick the ball off, 1.8 seconds left. Yeah. And we got it, and there's still some time left, so we took a knee. We had to take 2 knees, and then they signaled, they whistled in, and that was game. And then
wow.
Yeah, it just went
That's crazy. Well, listen, congratulations on the big win. That was fantastic. Yeah. Let's talk about standings here real quick. Now, this is really interesting, and I when the schedule and the standings first came out at the beginning of the year, this is the first time I've ever seen this. But Moncton and Riverview are actually playing in what's called Pool B this year, and they've got Fredericton, St. John, and Leo Hayes in their division, right? Tell me what that's like being in a division with Fredericton and St. John, because they've always been the Western Conference, and you guys have played in the Eastern Conference.
Well, yeah, it's definitely different. Our division is definitely pretty tough. There's a lot of good teams in there. Like the worst team in our side is a strong team. So it's interesting because it's really competitive, especially right now. Everyone's records are kind of the same. Yeah. And it's cool though to end up playing St. John, because in my past 2 years, I don't think I ended up playing St. John, just how things worked out. So it's cool. We play them next week, so I'm pretty excited for that right now.
And in Pool A, Tantramar, Odyssey, McNaughton, Matthew Martin, Tremble. Now, what's interesting about this, Tantramar is definitely going to be coming out of Division A. I'm very confident in saying that. I think that's a good gamble to take. Andy, you might want to put your money on that one as well.
Thanks, Ray.
But in Pool B, we've got Moncton and Riverview both at 4-1. Fredericton and St. John both at 3-2. Wow. And Leo Hayes, who went to the finals last year, is at 2-3. So like he says, it's very close. What's very interesting about this year, it could be the first time that we have a New Brunswick provincial final of 2 greater Moncton teams, if you will.
Yeah.
That's going to be very interesting to see how the next 3 weeks play out in the season.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like, we're getting ready. We're playing St. John. Then we got Fredericton, so 2 tough games. Then we got playoffs. So we need to win these 2 games and see where it takes us from there.
Awesome. Well, listen, I want to thank you for coming on First Down Sports. We wish you lots of luck along the way. What I'm going to do for you is my little brother, Nicky, who's normally here running our sound and audio, he has a little company called Done Right Sauce. Andy, why don't you give this to him? This is, they have their own sauce also made right out of Riverview. We're going to give you that. And we're also going to get you a couple of these First Down Sports hats.
Thanks, awesome.
Our buddies, the Doyles, are going to have a couple made up for you, so you can wear that around. Maybe you can get this to go as popular as the Bass Pro hats at Riverview High.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right, thanks for coming on again.
Thanks, Logan.
Thanks for having me.
All right, see you. All right, that was our interview with Logan Grossman. Pretty good kid, eh?
Yeah, really good, polite kid, saying all the right things. It was a great interview.
And not only that, but this is a high school kid. He is very well spoken.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you one thing, his father was here for the interview. I think it's very easy to say that his father is his biggest fan, no question.
Absolutely, yeah. And thankfully, his father did a little fact checking for us. Actually, not checking. I'm sure he memorized every play of that entire game. A huge win. But apparently, the news that you received on just how it ended didn't quite go exactly like that. I think you had the gist of it.
Yeah. So basically, what happened is they Tantramar scored the touchdown, making it 27-26 like we talked about.
Yeah.
Then they went for 2 points on the convert, which we talked about. On the first play, they throw the ball into the end zone, which is caught.
Yeah.
But there's a procedure penalty on the offense. Mm-hmm. That's what made the play come back 5 yards, and then they had to run the play again.
Yep.
And on that second play, the quarterback was under pressure, scrambled over to the far sideline, and on his way into the end zone, stepped out of bounds at the 2, ending the game right there.
Yeah.
So, crazy finish. I mean, this was a crazy finish. And again, huge crowd at Mount A for this game. And the Riverview Royals are the first team to beat Tantramar Titans in 2.5 years.
Yeah, and good for them too. And that's a great kid we were just talking with, and he deserved the win. He worked really hard for it. His whole team did, for sure, and he represents them really well. So good job, Royals.
Yeah, good job, Royals. And again, huge shout out to the Titans too. I mean, you guys, 2.5 years of not losing a game. There's nothing to hang your head there.
No, but not refusing to shake the kid's hand at the end. You should hang your head over that. So if you're watching, come on, guys.
All right, let's get in. Let's stick around, and we're going to get into some Mount Allison football here in a second. But what a crazy week in the AUS. This was a crazy week. Before the week even started, it was a crazy week.
Well, we talked last week about how many moving parts there were in this week and how certain things had to fall. And in AUS and CFL, it seemed like everything started happening. So
that's it. So earlier this week, St. Mary's in week 1 against St. FX used a player that was actually ineligible to play in the game. So St. Mary's, that has a 5-0 record, was actually deducted a game from the AUS decision makers.
Yeah.
So now the record goes from 5-0 to 4-1, which is really, that's a slap in the wrist to them.
Right.
But St. FX picks up a win for it. So now St. FX, who was sitting at 2-3, is now at 3-2. And I think the team that should be the most disappointed with this news is actually Mount A. Because Mount A was sitting at 1-4 before this weekend's games. X was at 2-3.
Yep.
With X coming to Mount A, all they had to do was win that game, and they're right back in the race for that 3rd seed.
Yep.
And now, with this decision by the AUS, Mount A's 2 games back.
Yep.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. The pressure this puts on Mount A and Bishops to try to get back into this race for that third seed.
And like we said last week, Mount A basically has to run the table now, and step one of running the table is winning this weekend, and did they manage to do it?
Well, here we go. Let's get into the game. So St. of X is visiting the Mounties, and guess what? There's no Jacob Laux again.
Right. Okay.
So here we go. First quarter of the game. The first quarter of the game was really a punt fest. Both teams were playing very conservative football. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until the second quarter when the backup quarterback for Mount A, Troy Downton, drives the team 58 yards and on 7 plays hits Jared Rawlings for the first score of the game. They missed the convert. They're up 6-0. On the very next series, St. of X comes out to answer. But instead of answering, Josh Miller throws an interception to Tyree Dunn.
Tyree Dunn.
I like this. I like this kid. Now Tyree runs it back to the X 22-yard line, and 5 plays later, Downton finds Rawlings again for a TD.
Wow.
They're up 13-0.
Okay, a new tandem here.
Yeah, so they're rolling. They're rolling. Josh Miller finds himself on the bench in the second half of this game, and backup Dylan Fisher for X comes out and throws a bomb to Keon Julian Grant for a 67-yard touchdown. But Mount A ends up running back Chris Reed, who's back in the game this week, comes out and closes the game out for the Mounties, putting up 194 yards and a touchdown.
Whoa.
Yeah. Big game for him. So Mounties win this game. They're 1 game back of X heading into the final 4 weeks, and the Mounties actually have a bye week this week, which is great for them.
Yeah.
If there's a team that needs a bye week right now, it's definitely them.
Hopefully that'll get Jacob Luke some time to get right. Not that his replacement hasn't been playing great from the sounds of it.
Yeah, he played well. He threw for 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And I also have to give a big shout out to Josh Hicks, our local Moncton boy that plays for Mount A. 9 catches for 116 yards and no touchdowns, but still 116 yards. And let's give a shout out to the kicker, Ryan Lambert. 4 for 4 in field goal attempts as well. So nice. They put up a lot of points on the board, and good for them. And X has got a tough game. We'll talk about X's their schedule coming up here. But before we do that, let's talk about Acadia. So Acadia right now was tied with X in second place with 2 wins or 3 wins and 2 losses. Yeah. The X-Men traveled for their first game ever at Bishop's University. The X-Men had a huge fourth quarter comeback off the leg of Jarrett Samur. And with 21 seconds, or with a minute and 55 seconds left in the game, he hit a 21-yarder to take the lead, 27-24. The X-Men win this game. Now they're up 4-2 in this conference. Cody Cluett had a big game, 291 yards and a touchdown. And their running back, Dale Wright, here's another big number from a running back. 30 touches for 188 yards and a touchdown.
30 carries, huh?
That's a big number, 188 yards.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what league it is.
That's huge.
That's a big number.
Yep.
Okay. So here's what the AUS looks like heading into this week. Acadia is now in sole place at sole second place at 4-2. St. Mary's, who had the week off, they are at 4-1. X is 3-3. Mount A's at 2-4, and Bishop's at 1-4. So Mount A's still in there. They're still in there.
Yep. But they got to keep winning.
This week, St. of X is playing at Acadia. That's a big game for X.
Yeah.
They need to bounce back here, and I'm sure Coach Waterman will have that team ready to go.
Yeah.
And Bishop's is playing their first game at St. Mary's.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. And again, Mount A has a week off. So that's basically AUS. Great football games. And again, this is a very tight division this year. This conference is very, very tight. And St. Mary's, who we thought were at 5-0, we're going to walk away with this division.
Yeah.
I mean, Acadia is right in the ripes to still take over and end up getting home field advantage through the playoffs.
And did this impact? I know every week you like to show the national rankings. I don't know if you have them this time, but I wonder if that impacted them at all in the national rankings.
I didn't pull the national rankings today, but I tell you what, we will get that information and put it up on the website.
Yeah, because you would think it probably would. Maybe.
You would definitely think that, because they were at 9th spot at 5-0.
At 5-0, yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see what kind of impact this has, and we'll put that on our website.
Cool.
So that is your AUS. How about we get into some CFL?
Yeah. Wow, this is a crazy CFL week too, wasn't it?
Crazy CFL. Week 16 of the CFL. I don't know what game to start with. How about we start with Hamilton, Winnipeg?
Well, let's set up real quickly, just the Eastern Conference. So the whole East, we're thinking, all right, Ottawa, Toronto's starting to run away with it. Ottawa can't afford to lose at all. Hamilton is right there on Ottawa's heels, and if Toronto just keeps winning these winnable games, I mean, they were going to run away with it. And then, so let's go through them. Yeah, let's start Hamilton, Winnipeg.
And remember, what was it? Week 12, Hamilton hadn't won a ball game yet, right? They went 9. It was 9 weeks they had gone without winning a game.
Yeah, and then they had a changing of the coaching staff and a new attitude, and they're actually really fun to watch now.
They are fun to watch.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this. This is coming from a week of watching the NFL where there's only so many entertaining games in the NFL these days. I don't know what it is about the NFL. There's only certain games that are actually entertaining these days, and that's whether it's injury or whatever the case may be. But I have yet to watch a CFL game that is not entertaining from the start to the end.
Yeah, and what I noticed with CFL is if the first half is not entertaining and you really think the game's over, it isn't.
Watch it.
You have to watch the second half.
You have to watch. Yeah. So here we go. Hamilton goes down to Winnipeg. Winnipeg is they're vying for a playoff spot. I mean they're looking to lock up their playoff spot more than anything.
They should be second or third in the West for sure, yeah.
And Hamilton comes out and wins 30-13 in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
What a crazy game.
It was an interesting one for sure. I was watching the game, and one of the first things, and we'll talk about it later, but one of the first things I noticed is there's a new running back on the scene, right? Yeah. We were a big fan of that CJ Gable guy, just controlling everything, and all of a sudden there's another great running back playing. But yeah, Hamilton jumped out to a lead early, and then and again, it wasn't an overwhelming lead, but you're thinking, all right, well, they should be able to hold on. And then when the second half started, Winnipeg came out, got a field goal up, and you're like, all right, listen, Winnipeg's a very high-powered offense compared to a lot of the CFL teams, and you're thinking, well, maybe the comeback's happening, and then Hamilton just buckled down, stops and scores, and they did enough to really, 30-13 is pretty wide win. There's a play here that I wanted to ask you about. Because you're always teaching me the CFL game.
Yeah.
So when you punt, the receiver or the guy back to receive the punt, you have to give him 5 yards to catch the ball and then start his football play.
Yeah.
And there was a punt that took place in this game where Hamilton punted the ball and 5 yards was not being given. Actually, a Hamilton player ended up recovering it. There was no 5 yards given, and that seemed perfectly fine. Walk me through the moving parts of this play and why that was all right.
Well, this is what, again, when it comes to Canadian football, we talk about the punt play, and it's not like the American game where it's meant for field position. It is a offensive play. Okay, it can be an offensive play for both teams. So in this particular case, the player from Hamilton, Brandon Banks, number 16, he made his way downfield and actually recovered the ball. A flag was thrown on him for no yards. Mm-hmm. The referee comes downfield, asks who covered the ball. They tell him number 16. The penalty's waived off, and first down is given to Hamilton.
Right.
Here's why. In the Canadian football game, you can have what's called an onside player.
Okay.
So any player that's behind the kicker at the time that the ball is kicked, has access to get the ball.
Okay.
The kicker himself is automatically onside.
Right.
Okay, because he's behind the ball at the time it's kicked.
Of course. Yeah.
So if the kicker makes his way downfield and recovers his own kick, first down.
Okay.
Okay. In this particular case, now the one thing you have to take into consideration, the yards have to be achieved. Okay, so if it's 3rd and 10 and the punter kicks it 5 yards and recovers the ball, it's a turnover on downs because you haven't achieved your downs.
Yep.
Okay, so you have to achieve your downs. So in this particular play, when you watch it, number 16 is lined up in the slot, rolls out behind the kicker to the right side of the field. The ball is kicked downfield to the right side. He comes down. He makes his way downfield and ends up being the first person to jump on the ball.
Wow.
Yards had been achieved. First down, Hamilton.
So 2 questions about this. I think you answered it there, but I mean, like, I don't notice that watching the game, right? So this guy.
Let me just point out to you.
Sure.
On this play, there will always be a flag because the official downfield that's covering the 5 yards doesn't know who's onside or who's offside when that ball is kicked.
Okay.
Okay, that's why there will always be a flag.
Okay. So the number 16, my first question was, when he rolled out from the slot, can he be in full motion while the kick is taking?
Absolutely.
So he's like a receiver in motion. He's getting a big full head of steam running around the kicker, and then he's off. Okay,
that's right.
And then number 2 is it common? Is there always an onside player for a punt, or is it like should the defense have saw that? Or the return team saw that and thought, oh, we have to pay special attention to this guy.
You should. It's some teams, what they'll do is they'll line their players up actually behind the kicker. Then you know that these guys are going to be they're going to be the outsides. But when you bring a guy in motion behind the kicker, it's tough to follow. It really is tough to follow for a defense. It's tough for a defense to make adjustments in that particular play, right?
Yeah.
Now, that being said, the pressure on the officials in this type of situation is really tough because the referee, he's not only watching for protection on the kicker, but he's got to make sure that this player was actually behind the ball at the time that it was kicked. Okay? That's a tough call to make. The other thing is the official downfield that's covering this play, when he throws his flag, it is huge importance on him, not only to make sure that the 5 yards and watch the ball, but he has to make sure he gets the number of the player that was within the 5 yards or the person that covered the ball.
Yeah.
And the reason why is the referee's going to come down. And again, once that number is given to the referee, if that player wasn't onside, then the flag will stand.
It's still good. Yeah.
And if the player was onside, the flag's waved off. Here's the interesting thing on this play. Had the referee downfield not known the number of the player that was inside, if you don't have a number, there is no onside player.
Right.
You have to have the number of the guy. So it's a real tough play for the defense, for the receiving team. It's a real tough play for officials. But it's something that you definitely get used to working in the Canadian game.
Yeah, and last thing about this, because I know we should jump to another game, but is this? It seems like you can challenge almost anything in the CFL, but you only have the one. But let's say the official never noticed or didn't remember the number of the guy who was onside.
Yeah.
A coach could a coach throw the flag and say, "Go look at the tape. My guy was onside."
I believe so. I'm not a CFL official, so I'm not 100% sure how that challenge rule works when it comes to special teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely makes sense that they'd probably be able to challenge that.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, let's move over. Ottawa. Guess who was back for Ottawa this week?
Mr. Harris.
Trevor Harris was back, and what a game this was. I mean, with I think there was about 6 minutes left in this game, and Ottawa was down by a couple scores. Like it was, this game was. I from watching it, I thought BC had this game locked up. I thought it was done, and then all of a sudden, I actually left the TV for about 5 minutes. I came back, and Ottawa was ahead.
Yeah. Yep.
Trevor Harris finally gets this team rolling again, throws for 380 yards, 3 touchdowns. Powell ran for 92 yards. Greg Ellison had his numbers, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ottawa looked fantastic in that fourth quarter against BC.
Yeah, I mean, they put up points the entire second half, right? I mean, they had a 13-point third quarter and then 11 in the fourth to completely bury them. But yeah, it's just another example of, you have to watch the second half of a game because, the Ottawa offense didn't look like it was firing on all cylinders. Harris by no means looked bad. I mean,
he'd been off for a few weeks, right? So you knew it was going to take him some time to get his timing back.
But he still had to be the guy out there for sure. And then all of a sudden, he just figured it all out in the second half, and everything went their way. And huge win for them, like we were talking about. They had to win this. They were starting to slip, and Toronto's caught fire, so they had to win this. Big win, absolutely.
Well, here's a play. I want to talk about the last play of this game.
Okay.
So BC Lions have the ball on Ottawa's 38-yard line, and I think there's 1.9 seconds left on the clock.
Okay.
So they throw the Hail Mary. Mm-hmm. Okay, and if you watch the replay, there's a couple BC Lion receivers in the area, and there's double the amount of D-backs from Ottawa. Okay, ball's caught. Okay, the ball. Everybody jumps up in the air to catch the ball. The ball's caught by a BC Lion, but he loses control of the ball as he's going to the ground. We talked about this last week in the X game, and this seems to be a common theme of my conversations. Why is it when a ball is coming down in that type of situation, why are these D-backs going for the interception rather than knocking that ball down? I don't get it.
Yeah.
All you have to do is swat the ball away. Game's over.
I don't know, man. This is pro sports, so incentives, I guess, on having the pick. I guess it's hard to say.
You get to be on TSN.
Yeah, you get to be
I'll
on.
be on TSN if I intercept it.
Though, let's be honest. Now we've seen lots of highlight reel plays, and I mean, how many people are showing the last second interception on a Hail Mary? I guess you would if it was in the end zone and so on. But yeah, kind of silly. I mean, if we went back and looked at it closely, maybe some of the guys were trying to knock it down and so on, and the BC receiver just happened to be in the right place. Who knows? But way too many guys go for the play.
I see 4 or 5, maybe 6 guys with their hands up like this trying to catch a football.
Yeah.
That's what I see when I watch the highlight, and I just don't get it. Like if I'm not a cornerback, I don't have the athletic ability that these guys have, but I do have common sense, and common sense tells me get the ball on the ground. Get the ball on the ground.
Yeah, and the other side of this is the BC guy catches it, and then the stupid what is a catch rule takes effect, where he loses control as he's going to the ground, and blah, 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 blah. I mean, I hope someday in my lifetime, we figure out what a catch is.
Yeah,
I think that'd be
fantastic.
exciting. That'd be exciting.
And let's be honest, really. If I'm one of those defensive backs back there, knowing me, I'm going for the TSN highlight too.
Absolutely,
probably.
You're going for the one. You're going for the one-handed Odell grab. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Why don't you lead us through Saskatchewan versus Toronto Argos?
Sure. I mean, this was one of the games that I was only able to catch some of it, but again, huge game for Toronto. They totally caught fire, and Saskatchewan's really been playing pretty poorly. It was the debut of Mr. Richardson that we were pretty excited about, and. So anyway, the game gets going, and by the end of the first half, it's 16-10. Saskatchewan's playing quite well compared to what you're expecting, and the Argos seem to be firing on all cylinders. And usually, what happens with the Argos is Ricky Ray just goes crazy in the second half. But Saskatchewan's defense buckled down and held them to 8 points in the second half, and Saskatchewan's offense just ignited in the third quarter. And I can't even think of his name. Let's find it really quickly here. But Saskatchewan had a change at quarterback.
Brandon
Bridge, a Canadian. I think he's from Brampton or Mississauga or something.
He was born in Toronto. He's 25 years old. He played for South Alabama University. In 2015, he played 2 games with Montreal. 2016, 3 games with Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
And he's been on the game day roster for 9 games this season.
Yeah, and Kevin Glenn, I mean, he's just not been good this year. No. And a lot of the 2 and Out podcast guys and a lot of things that I've seen on Twitter, people are just like, why does Saskatchewan insist on playing this guy? We get it, it's the vet. Brandon Bridge comes in, he's 20 for 28. He completes almost 72% of his passes, 292 yards and 2 touchdowns, just lights it up. And what I thought was crazy, and I'm hoping I can get the stats quickly here, but he's made a couple other appearances so far this season. And when he's been in the game so far this season, he's 60 for 86, 817 yards, 9 touchdowns.
Wow.
And no interceptions. I think it's no interceptions.
Yeah,
if there's any, it might be 1.
Yeah.
So it's about time. I mean, they have to keep him in now, right after that. And having a Canadian quarterback playing in the CFL, that's not very common, right? No. It happens, but it's exciting.
It is exciting. This is great news for this kid, and he did play awesome down the stretch in that Argos game, and who knows, maybe he can turn around and get Saskatchewan into the playoffs on the western side.
Well, they're 8-6, and I think we've both come to grips with the fact that we think 3 teams are going to make it in the West.
Yeah,
it tends to be the way it shakes down. And right now they're sitting in 3rd in the West, and at 8, they're really turning it on when it matters. And this kid could lead them there. I actually, to be honest with you, kind of expect them to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, here's your games for this week. Week 17 coming up. 3 weeks left of their season.
Oh, we have one more game that, and I know why. You can't think of it because it ended on my way over in Montreal. There's not a lot to say here other than this was my lock of the week last week. Anybody playing Montreal, even the Edmonton Eskimos, who were a 6-game losing streak, I believe was what it was, and Edmonton beat Montreal.
Wow. What was the final score? 42?
It was really high scoring. Let me get it here. But now I want to talk about, actually, before we move on to the next games, 42-24.
42-24.
I'm watching the first half of this game, and I mentioned to you that while I was watching Hamilton, I was like, hey, that's not CJ Gable. That's not the beast mode running back that I've come to adore in Hamilton. And then I'm watching the first half before I leave to come over here tonight, and there's CJ Gable playing for the Edmonton Eskimos.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, what happened, right? I had no idea. I didn't hear anything about it. So it turns out Gable was traded to the Edmonton Eskimos early in the week, or at the end of last week, for the rights to have 2 players on their negotiations list. So the CFL has the rights to negotiate with certain players that are in the NFL or whatnot. Like Johnny Manziel, for instance, is on Hamilton's negotiations list, right? So I think that's an asset they can trade. Okay, wow. So apparently, having the rights to 2 players, and hopefully maybe I'll find out maybe for next week who these 2 players are, but I have to look into this because in the NFL, I understand the business behind it. I'm no genius by no stretch, but I can look at a trade and say, here's why that team made that trade, and here's why both sides made it. Here's why it makes sense money-wise.
From the salary cap, the whole bit.
Yeah, exactly. And what a draft pick is really worth in compensation and so on.
Right.
But I don't know anything about this negotiations list. I know that CJ Gable was my favorite running back to watch in the CFL, absolute monster, and was carrying Hamilton in every game I watched them in. And they move on for the rights to 2 players on their negotiations list. So it'll be my homework assignment for this week, so that by next show, I'm going to be able to explain to you why that made some sort of either financial or competitive sense.
Okay. Well, we're going to look forward to that. I haven't heard of this either, and I look forward to hearing your research for next week. Let's get into Week 17. Calgary is traveling to Hamilton. That should be a good ball game. Calgary is still the leader in the West, and coming, we'll see if Hamilton can hold them off at home.
Yep.
Ottawa is traveling to Saskatchewan, so now hopefully this Canadian kid's playing, and we get to see
heck of a game.
Yeah, that should be a heck of a ball game. Now, I don't know if you do know this, but for the listeners, I am leaving tomorrow morning, and I'm heading out to Winnipeg till Thursday. I should have seen if I could stay till Saturday because BC is going to be at Winnipeg.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get myself out to the stadium, take some pictures at the stadium there.
Yeah, I hear it's a great place to see a game for sure. Yeah.
And then Saturday, Toronto is at Edmonton.
Yep.
So those are your games this week. Do you want to pick your lock of the week, Andy?
This is tough, Ray. You want to know why?
Why?
Because Montreal's on a bye.
Ooh, boy.
No, I hate to do this, but my lock of the week is Calgary over Hamilton. I really have a soft spot for Hamilton now, and they're really playing some good football. And Calgary hasn't been. I think they've sort of been playing down to their competition, but I think Calgary's a safe bet on this one.
Wow, that's not a bold pick, but I'll lock that in for you.
Well, yeah,
I'll lock it in.
You didn't tell me it had to be bold.
No, it doesn't have to be bold. You're just a big bold guy. That's why I was expecting something bold there.
Okay,
but I will go my lock of this week. I'm gonna stick with Ottawa.
All right,
I'm going with Ottawa. I think with Harris back, he's got a game under his belt. I think that Ottawa is turning it up for the playoffs. I'm going to go with Ottawa. And plus, I know my buddy Ray Perkins is going to be at the game, and he'll give us his inside information there.
Yeah, we'll have him come on and tell us all about it. Hopefully, he stays awake on the sidelines. It's a late game. Starts at 10 p.m. His usual time in Ottawa. So
wow.
Yeah.
All right, so that's our lock of the weeks. Before we get out of here this week, Andy, do you have any final thoughts?
I really enjoyed the interview tonight with Logan Grossman.
Yeah.
I think in our conversation before we started the interview, I thought it was great. I mean, what a perfect quarterback name. Logan is a quarterback name. Grossman, quarterback name. Great. He was just destined to be a quarterback. So that was really awesome. And hopefully a lot of high school football fans that haven't seen this show before, get a chance to come check it out, especially with that interview. And it was awesome. It was good.
That's great. Jeannie B, back on sound and audio. Any final thoughts? How was it looking after the audio for your first show?
Yeah, it was fine. But I have a comment I can make because Andy had a question about the quarterbacks in the CFL. Russ Jackson was the last star Canadian quarterback for Ottawa Rough Riders, but that was back in the 1960s.
Wow.
That's how far back?
We got a fact check.
That's what a producer behind the glass should be doing, right?
Oh
hey, Nick, if you're listening to this show, all right.
Nick.
Well, that is good to know.
What is Nick doing back there?
That's
the best fact check we've had.
I think he's back there playing that CFL frenzy game. Yeah.
Holy jeez. All right. Great job, Jeannie B. That was a great job.
Yeah.
All right. Before I give you my final thoughts, once again, let me thank our sponsors. Hats, shirts, T-shirts. You know where to go. Go see our buddies the Doyle's Corporate Image.
Doyle's Rule.
And again, if your kitchen sucks and you need to spice it up, don't forget to get yourself some done right sauce.
It'll make things better.
Yeah, not buffalo sauce, but done right sauce.
Right sauce, yeah.
And I got to give a small shout out to our major sponsor, Moose Light. We didn't really over promote it this week, just in the fact that we were talking a lot of high school football and having a high school guest. We thought Moosehead would definitely support us in that decision.
Yeah.
My final thoughts we get out of here is, again, I agree with you. That kid was awesome.
Yep.
Logan, thanks for coming on First Down Sports. I think you've got a good future ahead of you, whether it's football or whatever it is you decide down the road. Great kid. And I also want to wish the Ottawa Red Blacks lots of success this week in Saskatchewan, seeing I'm picking you. And that's about it.
Yeah, good luck Riverview in your next game, too. It's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big one. Yeah. You guys have a great week. Enjoy the games this week.
I pretty much can't miss now.
Can't miss.
She's drinking pesticide.